Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Rohini here. I'm so excited to be sitting down for this video. I'm going to be talking about the maiden to mother journey, my own experience of that inner journey, as well as what it is, ideas and inspiration of how you can work with these archetypes in your own life. I hope that this video is a resource and that it's helpful for you along your path, and thank you for tuning in. If you're not already subscribed, please do so, and let's get into the video. So a bit of background about me if you're new here, or just to refresh. I am 25 years old currently, and I am 5 months pregnant, having our first baby in December, which explains why this maiden to mother journey is top of my psyche, top of my heart, because it's happening. I am experiencing it physically. And also, my own mother passed away very suddenly last September. It'll be almost a year this September. It will be a year this September. And that experience has completely transformed my life, obviously, but my inner journey, and literally being forced to go through this maiden to mother journey because I no longer have that outward mother figure that I can turn to for support and resources. So all of that has now been turned inward. So I must find that strength and that motherly guidance from within, which is what this journey is all about. Along with my different spiritual explorations and journeys, I've dabbled in lots of different things, and kind of settled on, not settled, but softened and chosen Reiki as my real spiritual path, and I now teach that as well. But women's work is my other main passion, and I have led women's workshops and retreats and courses and groups and things like that in the past, and I know that I'll do that again in the future. So this is very dear to me, and I love speaking about it. So that's a bit about me. So to start, I wanted to say that maiden and mother are two archetypes within the feminine psyche and within the feminine being. And firstly, what's most important is to understand what an archetype is, because that might be a new concept. It definitely was to me until I got into this work. I'll just read this. This is definition by Carl Jung, who is amazing thought leader and kind of father of psychology in a lot of ways. One of the fathers of psychology in a lot of ways. And he really made the archetype work popular and more well-known. The archetypes can be described as universal symbols or patterns that are present in the collective and unconscious of all humans. And this is why it's so exciting to discover these archetypes, is because it's something that we can all relate to, something that we all have within us, that we're all experiencing. It's this connective tool that we can use to understand more about our human experience, because we do not need to go about this alone. In fact, there's so many tools and resources for us to work with, so we can make this journey a little bit easier, our path to self-discovery a little bit easier. So studying the archetypes, and there are specific archetypes within Jungian psychology, there are specific archetypes within like maiden to mother to crone. Those are three that are well known within women's work, and there's a lot more that people have kind of coined and work with. And you can also, just take a step back and examine your own archetypes and give them names besides what's out there. Like if you have a personality that's really feisty and passionate and zesty, and like the one that's going to start the project and dream really big, then you can, call that part of you, that piece of you, an archetype, and give it a name and work with it. So this is really beautiful work. It's a beautiful way to learn about yourself. The brief definitions of the maiden and mother archetypes are as follows. Maiden is a young, powerless female in need of rescuing, usually by a male hero. Or that's more of what we see literally like in movies or books, all of the Disney movies until now. Now they're more, modernized, but all the princes and the knights on their shining white horses coming to save the damsel in distress. That's like the maiden at her most widely known. Other characteristics of the maiden are when we think about the maiden, it's the immature feminine. So if you think about maybe yourself in middle school or high school and just kind of maybe a sense of insecurity, immaturity, outsourcing your needs for others, just wanting to fit in, and you'll stifle your own voice just so you can be cool and be in with the crowd, or just so that boy will like you, or just so you don't get into trouble or ruffle any feathers. The maiden is, I think, always wanting to be the good girl, but not realizing that that's not an external journey, it's an internal journey. I think the maiden is really the external, wanting the validation, the beauty, to be seen as beautiful, to always look perfect, to always have your hair done, and be wearing the latest trends or whatever in a non-grounded way, in a way where it's because of the validation that you're seeking. The maiden shirks away from responsibilities. She would rather let someone else do that. Again, that's saving me, like, oh, I'm just not going to deal with this stack of bills because maybe someday I'll meet a husband and he'll just pay everything for me, or whatever it is. That's just a silly example, but like, I'm just not going to deal with that now because I know somewhere along the line someone will do it for me. It'll take care of itself. Having that kind of like blinders on to the realities and responsibilities of the world and being an adult. And the maiden's not all bad either, The maiden is like youthful spring energy, just like bursting with life, and a little bit naive, but very, very curious and wondrous, and wanting to go on adventures all the time, and never really being satisfied with where she is, but wanting to see more and more and more, and have more and more and more. So there are positive ways to tune into the maiden as well, because she still will always live within us. She always will, even when we're 90. So it's like that little youthful vigor of like, okay, let's go on a trip, and like, what would my maiden want to do on this trip? Maybe she would want to, like rent a horse-drawn chariot and drive through the countryside, something just silly, but like, she's in there, and it's not that we're trying to exile her at all. It's just being aware of her and how she's showing up, and if it's appropriate. So the mother archetype, these are the words of Sarah Wilson, who she is the author of I think my favorite book for this work. It's called Maiden-to-Mother by Sarah Durham Wilson. It's a really great book. There's a lot of great activities and like worksheets kind of that you can do within it. So highly recommend her book. And she's one of definitely the leaders in this Maiden-to-Mother movement. So her definition of mother is the powerful, safe, compassionate, full bloom feminine life force that exists within us all, which is beautiful to think about, that full bloom life force. And the mother really is the great mother, or you could think of Mother Earth, and the qualities of Mother Earth. She is always giving. She's giving, giving, giving. She is she's never without resources. She always, there's always water, there's always food, there is just plenty. She's abundant. She's never lacking within herself and what she has to give. She is very compassionate. She's understanding with herself and with others. She is that lap, that comforting lap. If you imagine laying your head on the most compassionate mother's lap and just being like, having your head stroked and just listening with compassion, that's the mother. But it's very deep-rooted strength. It's unwavering strength. It's confidence, like true confidence, in a way that has nothing to do with how the external world will see her or perceive her. It's all about how she feels about herself and how she shows up for herself and her loved ones and for her life, and how she shows up for her gifts as well, what she has to offer to the world. So the mother is that pillar of strength, like unwavering strength, who is always, always abundant, and she's always with, she's not without. So this quote, again by Sarah Wilson, which I really love, it's, in maiden, you're waiting for the good to come. In mother, you are the good that will come. You are the good to come. So it's, again, you're not waiting for that knight on a shining horse to come and save you and bring good into your life. You know that that's within you, and you need to source that within yourself for it to come. You make it. You don't wait. You make it. And that requires some strength and some confidence and some action to actually go forward and do the thing and believe that you can do it. the ideal within this journey, this inner journey, is that we seamlessly move from maiden to mother when we become women, when we become adults. And I'm not really sure, when that would be. Would that be when we turn 18? Would that be when we become a mother? Would that be when our own mother passes and leaves on that legacy? I think it's really, when are we women? When do we embody that, like, I am a woman? And when is that something that's important and like something to be proud of? And I don't think 18 I think, and I hope and I plan to raise my daughters to know about this, so as they go into adulthood, they're aware of these changes and where to look for these different pieces. But for me, it seems like it really comes when you become a mother, or when you become like a caretaker, in terms of like you have your home and you have your partner, or the people that you love, the people that you care for, you have your offerings in the world. You're an adult. You're truly an adult. So there isn't really an age, I guess, that this necessarily should happen. However, when we think about what usually does happen, and some of you maybe can relate this to your own mother. Maybe she wasn't in her mother archetype when she raised you. She was still stuck in maiden, although she was in her 30s or 40s. And that's really common in our society, because we're lacking in these rites of passage and this community and communication and these elders to pass on wisdom. And there's so much about it, but it's much more difficult, I think, in today's society in some ways to be aware of the inner process and to encourage it instead of hiding from it. The physical and spiritual and emotional transition of going from being a woman who has no children to becoming a mother with children is probably one of the biggest opportunities for this transition to happen, to go from maiden to mother. I am now physically a mother. I have children that are under my care that I'm providing for and I'm taking care of. And ideally that happens, this transition happens and we're aware of it, but it's not always the case, like I said. And for me, I'm really seeing this as my huge opportunity to go into this work in my own psyche and notice it even more closely, so that I'm not operating in wounded maiden for my children. That's not how I'm showing up as a mother. I'm showing up as the mother, not as the maiden, for my children and my family, my partner, all of it. So like I said, losing my mother very suddenly at a young age has completely catapulted me into this journey head first, whether I wanted to or not, because like I said, the mother is all about the inner resources, sourcing the wisdom and the support and the care from within instead of without. And I have had to do that because I literally cannot pick up the phone to call my mother for the advice or for the support that I would call her pretty much every day, sometimes multiple times a day, just to talk to her. And so every time that I've wanted to call her, I have opportunity to sit and be like, okay, what is it that I'm needing? What is it that I'm seeking? And just go inward and see where I can give these things to myself. And it's not even that means I need to go in the corner alone and like deal with my whole inner world by myself. It's maybe I go inward and I see that I need support. And so the mother says, yes, get that support. You need support. And here are some ways you can get it. You can talk to your partner. You can call up a supportive friend. You can have a call with your grief counselor. You can take a nice long bath. There's all these things. There's more. You can go on a walk in nature. There's all these tools that the mother has within her tool belt to help her feel safe and supported. And so it's that moment of pause and going in and seeking the resources within, instead of just acting unconsciously. And maybe for me, grief turns into anxiety if it's not felt. And so then I'll get anxious and then I'll just feel icky in my body and I won't want to do anything for anyone else, and I'll just be nervous and like unsettled and short-tempered. So that then is an outward expression of the wounded maiden coming out. I'm not dealing with what's going on. I wanted to give that example in case any of you can relate to that, or just so you know how it can manifest, because it does, and it will continue to. It's not like the maiden just goes away. She's always there, like I said. So it's an ongoing co-creation and understanding of this woman and this maiden inside of you. A few of the traits of my maiden, again, to give some context, some ideas, and some of these are kind of universal traits of the maiden. Maybe you can relate with some of these. My maiden is very quiet. She doesn't speak her needs. She's not someone that explodes out. She's usually very like indrawn and is kind of raging on the inside, but doesn't feel safe enough to speak what she's feeling or what she needs. My maiden is very whiny and lazy. She would just rather not, whatever it is, would just rather not. And she likes to take the easiest route possible. And my maiden outsources her responsibilities to others. She would rather have someone else deal with that for her. This is a universal trait, but especially with finances. My maiden spends money like there's no tomorrow. And she avoids dealing with finances like the plague, and that's related directly to my childhood trauma with money. So, these connective pieces are there. Like, okay, my maiden acts this way. I wonder if that's connected to this thing that happened in my childhood, right? Because the maiden is that young girl inside of you. And what she experienced directly affects how she acts in the world. My maiden avoids confrontation, and she holds in her truth as not to ruffle any feathers or upset anyone or cause a stir. She'd rather just keep it in an unhealthy way instead of, potentially hurting or upsetting or ruffling feathers with the people around her, much to her own detriment. My Mother Archetype, who I think we as women have always felt this within us. We know it's there, but it's not that we're always aware of her or working with her or operating as her. My Mother Archetype is extremely nurturing to all who come into her home. She is the hostess. She will make you tea and fresh bread and see if you need a sweater or warm socks, or have you tried this essential oil if you have a headache. She's so nurturing, so caring, and very motherly. I've always gotten that I'm very motherly in terms of how I care for people who come into my space and just my friends in general. My mother loves to be of service to others from a genuine place. Like, I get pleasure from being of service to others when I'm in my grounded mother, because again, I'm a plenty, I'm not without. I love cooking for those that I love. I love baking. I love tending to people, and I love teaching, and I love serving. That's one of the reasons why I love Reiki so much. You learn that when you are giving, you're also receiving just as much, and that's the mother. My mother enjoys a challenge and sees it as an opportunity to grow, and sometimes will even put herself in challenging situations so that she can learn and grow and feel her strength. I think of my time doing a traditional sweat lodge in Texas heat because I wanted to, my time in Peru fasting and in silence and sitting with ayahuasca, all these things that are physically challenging but help strengthen the inner confidence and inner being. My mother does not shirk away from responsibility. She faces it head on, and she knows that she's safe no matter the outcome. My inner mother feels safe and strong enough to go into her heavy emotions, and she sources her strength from her own being. That's a big one, I think, with the mother, is that we can be with our own emotions. We're not numbing, we're not escaping, we're not pushing it down, pretending like everything's fine. We're actually feeling it, and we're being honest with ourselves because we feel safe enough to hold, like grief is a huge huge emotion that is heavy. It can be hard to be in, but the mother is who holds you in that and who tells you you're okay. Even if you're in the shit of it, you're still okay, you're safe. And she can hold herself in times of difficulty. And in that of holding of herself, she then is able to hold others. And that's the mother, the mother lap, the mother arms. She is rooted and she's strong, and so she has space for others. She's spacious. And so that is what I had written down about this journey. And I wanted to end it out with offering some suggestions of how you can work with these archetypes. And I think a great way, first of all, read the book Maiden-to-Mother, Sarah Durham Wilson. Additionally, the book Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes is a great book with all of the feminine archetypes. It's an incredible book. Picking out movies or TV shows and watching them specifically with the lens of, okay, where's the maiden archetype, where's the mother archetype, and just being aware, like, oh wow. Someone told me the Barbie movie is a good example. I haven't seen it. I know everyone's talking about it right now, but finding these popular movies or older movies and just noticing where these archetypes are coming up. Making a list of my maiden attributes, my mother attributes, and being super honest with yourself. And then once you notice, you will be able to make the connection of when your maiden may be unconsciously showing up in your life. Connecting with mother, I would say great ways to do that are finding women who you see as being in their mother, being in their embodied mature feminine, and bring them into your life, asking them questions, looking to them and asking for guidance and learning from them. That's the best, one of the best ways. Surround yourself with these mature feminine women. Connecting with the earth, perhaps the easiest and best one, because you can learn from her attributes. Just sitting below a beautiful tree in nature quietly and thinking about how deep the roots go and how abundant the leaves are and how she flows with the wind, but she doesn't fall over, and there's just so much that you can learn from nature. Within the Maiden-to-Mother book, there are I keep saying workshops, but like there are activities where you can go into a meditation and meet your maiden and meet your mother. So those are really great. And lastly, I have a beautiful friend, Mel, who really specializes in this maiden-to-mother work as well as the other archetype work. And she does one-on-one client work, and I've actually worked with her one-on-one before, and it was huge. Right at the beginning of understanding where my maiden was, this was like 2 years ago, I think, 2.5 years ago. Yeah, so I highly recommend working with her. I'll link her down below. Her website, you can look it up, is Melanie Joy Speaks. She's amazing. She's a mother herself. She had her daughter very young, and she's just a badass. So I highly recommend working with someone one-on-one or in groups if you can find any women's circles around you, or any crones. That's a whole nother video, and I'm not there yet, obviously, not for a long time, but Maiden Mother crone, the crone is the final kind of embodiment of the feminine. So I have a feeling once I have my baby and I can see my mother-in-law Anne in this crone grandmother era, I'll learn more about it. That is this video. I hope it was helpful or just interesting for you. I find this stuff fascinating, and of course, all of this is for the highest good, right? It's for us to understand ourselves better, and when we understand ourselves better and we can live unclouded by our trauma and our shame and our judgments of ourselves, we can just live our pure light. That's the goal, and that's how we can inspire others and heal this whole dang planet. So thank you for being interested and for doing this work. Please subscribe if you haven't, and give this video a like. Also, I'd love to hear any comments about your own journey, things you've realized or met within your own maiden or your own mother, how maybe your physical mother affected your own journey. Anything you want to share, I would love to hear it. I'll be reading all of them and replying to as many as I can, so please share away. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.